white fatigue is so real. That man was on that plane, spitting on people, hitting people, refused to stay in his seat. And I don't want to hear black women talking about black men don't protect black women. When that black woman was in distress, this black flight attendant, it was a black man that came to help her. Nobody else. It was a black man that came to help her. He was also there calling her slurs. And this just goes to show you, you people might think that you could say what you want online, and it's all fine and dandy, but that's online. In real life, you saw the fear that man had in his eyes. I'm gonna put a picture of him right here. You seen the fear in this man's eyes when this big black nigga came and picked him up and put him in his seat like a child? It was over. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, shocked, like he seen a ghost. You probably didn't even see this video because the stereotypes are not being pushed. If the roles were reversed and it was an unruly, drunk black man being put in his place by a white man, all you'd see in the comments is, yeah, as we've always done for hundreds of years, we should have never freed them, yada, 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 whatever. But because it's not that, silence. But I'm going to promote the things that are positive from our community because we are not our stereotypes.
I can't say that I spend a lot of time hanging around racist white people, but I will say this. They will always find a way to make themselves out to be the victim. I had this one coworker in the past. Let's just say her name was Barbara, okay? Barbara's this middle-aged white woman who has some racist views. One day, we've got a new girl. She's serving a table. It's full of like 8 bitchy Karens who are doing way too much. Basically, they just want to get their food for free. So they're sending everything back after they've already eaten half of it and saying like, oh, this was terrible. I didn't like this. I didn't like that, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I felt so bad for the new girl because she's like on the verge of tears. Like she is so flustered. These Karens are being so rude, so mean for no reason. Well, they would just want to get their food for free. I said something like, man, I hope that new girl doesn't think this is what all of our customers are like because they are not like that. Usually they're really nice. And this is like a one-off situation. And this is like her 3rd day at work and she's having to deal with this. I feel so bad. Barbara looks at me and goes, well, you know why that is. And I'm over here like, no, what? And she goes, it's because they're black. Immediately, I shut it down and I'm like, this has absolutely nothing to do with race. That is wildly inappropriate to say. Like, I can't even tell you how many white tables I've had that have acted exactly like that and worse. I said, maybe it's because they're bitchy Karens who want their food for free, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they're black. So I felt like I set the record straight. I felt like we had an understanding, right? Anyway, Barbara goes home earlier than the rest of us. She took that opportunity to go and run and tell HR that I was discriminating against her as a Wisconsinite. Now, let me tell you what really happened. Barbara thought I was going to go to HR and tell on her for being racist. So she thought, let me go to HR first and report Axel first. Because then, whenever Axel reports me for being racist, it's going to seem like he's just making it up. And he's just mad that I reported him. So now he's making up a bunch of bullshit. And it's just retaliation. Very sneaky, very sneaky. Oh, the racist whites will always do that, won't they? They will always try to turn themselves into the victim. I ended up getting suspended for a week without pay, okay? And I lived paycheck to paycheck at the time, so that they could do an investigation into me and interview a bunch of coworkers and see if I was discriminatory against Wisconsinites. The most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. All because Miss Barbara couldn't take accountability when she was caught in the act being racist. Don't worry, I ended up getting her back. She ended up quitting because she was like super embarrassed by the end of all of this. So anyway, we got her back. I'm not going to go into all of that, but we got her back and she learned her lesson, okay? I ended up really like laying into her. But anyway, just to my point, I was thinking about that today, and I was like, man, the lengths that these racist white people will go to rationalize and excuse their racism, to justify their racism, and to avoid taking accountability whenever they get caught in the act.
Now, real quick before I let this thing go, because y'all know I never keep it short and sweet. I'm more of a no-chaser type girl. So let's be real about what causes Black folks fatigue. It's the constant code switching, workplace microaggressions, being the only one in the room, not being recognized for what we've contributed, the mistreatment of our children, and let's not forget the unalivings. Acting like racism doesn't exist, white folks calling themselves one of the good ones, but staying silent when the stakes are high, seeing injustices and being just fine as long as it's not affecting you, watching our culture get stolen and watered down, police brutality and state-sanctioned violence, medical racism, hair discrimination, redlining, generational wealth gaps, fighting for inclusion we should have had all along, carrying the emotional labor of everybody else. And after generations of harm, now you want us to coddle you because you feel ashamed. You want us to make you feel better and tell you it's okay. Well, it's not. And when we don't soothe your guilt about the privileges that you've been benefiting from off the backs of our labor, you turn into Karens and Kens, trying to dismantle what we built from scraps that somehow still outshined your best. Oh, we know the ones. Tulsa, Rosewood, I can go on. So you get the point. Lurking and monitoring, obsessed with what we're doing when we ain't even thinking about you. We're minding our Black business. So you say you don't like us, but you can't seem to get enough of us. So here's the deal. Leave us alone. I promise you we'll do the same. Baby, that's Black fatigue. Not y'all tired of hearing about our real fatigue. But nevertheless, we're still here. We're still standing. And we're still saying the quiet parts out loud. So we'll see you the next time. Because I know y'all lurking on this here video, trying to see what we're talking about. So here you go. Leave us alone. Now to my Black folk, drink your water, stay rooted and real, and mind your Black business. Happy Black History 365, and I'll see you next time.
White people have co-opted the word Black fatigue to mask racism and say racist and prejudiced tropes about us online. I figured I'd make a video to describe my white fatigue, my white malaise, my white exhaustion. FYP shows you what you're looking for. So if you're saying you're opening TikTok and all you're seeing is brawls and fights of Black people, look within. Because why are you searching for us? Why are you monitoring us? You guys have the biggest monitoring spirits of life. If you're so tired of us, just leave us alone. I'm tired of white criminals. White people commit 70% of the crimes and arrests in this country. No such thing as black on black crime. You guys created that to continue to paint us as savages. Meanwhile, you guys are the ones committing all the crime. I'm tired of kids not being safe in school because people are being shot by white boys and girls in school. I'm tired of mass shootings in public places. I'm tired of bombers blowing up braces, blowing up buildings. White people killing people. I'm tired of white serial killers. I'm tired of you guys praising white serial killers and then glorifying them by making movies and TV shows. White men committing crime and not going to jail. Stealing money from people's grandparents and stealing money from citizens and then you give them more and more. I'm tired of you guys causing the conditions for people not to be developed around the world or undeveloped and then label them as third world countries, second world countries, and then blame them for the reason that they're not developed, even though you're the reason they're not developed. I'm tired of being exposed to food that's been seasoned with air and imagination because these cows and chickens didn't have to die for no reason. I'm tired of Karens not minding their own business, and then when confronted about the business they didn't mind, then they have white tears, which then cause harm to white bodies, which then predicates police brutality, which you guys are the ones that perpetrate. So I'm tired of the fact that your grandparents and your great-grandparents caused the conditions for Black people to live in ghettos, Black people not to own homes, Black people not to have access to education, access to funds and programs, and then blame us for living in the ghetto, and then blame us for the violence that we are subject to, and then blame us for the conditions that we live in. Wow. Story after story of teachers having inappropriate relationships with their teenage students. Tired of the white hoods and KKK and the neo-Nazis, some which just got attacked in Ohio because they felt entitled to be openly racist. Really confused and tired about those rock concerts where you guys go ahead and beat each other up, but we're savages. Very savage, uncouth ghetto behavior. Beating each other up for fun at concerts. Tired of the opioid crisis. I'm tired of white middle-class men who are criminals, who all they care about is the bottom line, and they willingly put drugs into the system which kill kids. and which kill college students. Wow. I'm tired of seeing overweight people in my 600-pound life not doing anything with themselves and living off the government. I'm tired of white people being the largest recipients of welfare in this country and DEI programs. I'm tired of the history that you guys created in this country, to the point where my parents are the first people in my family that integrated schools. My parents are the first people in my family that had full rights. Not even my mother. Sorry, my dad was, maybe. And you guys acting like it's not real. That's what I'm tired of. Have a beautiful day, white folk.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter in G Stories. There's something interesting that I want to talk about. A couple of times we ever discussed about black fatigue, and we didn't discuss about white fatigue. Somebody might want to know what is white fatigue, because this word, same as black fatigue, is usually often misused by white people. And why am I saying so? Because they reinterpret the meaning and give it their own meaning. And somebody will say that I have a black fatigue, right? And also somebody will say that I have a white fatigue. These words or these phrases are being used interchangeably. But what I might say, white fatigue was a term which was coined by Dr. Joseph E. Flynn that describes the exhaustion and frustration experienced by some white people when engaging in anti-racism efforts. Now, this phenomena occurs despite an intellectual understanding that racism is wrong and a desire to be anti-racist. The author, or the person who came up with this word, it was called Dr. Joseph E. Flynn. He said that when fatigue manifests when individuals who recognize individual overt acts of racism struggle to comprehend the deeper complexities of systems and institutional racism. This conceptual challenge can lead to frustration and disengagement, placing greater burden on people of color to carry the weight of anti-racist work. That is what it's called, the white fatigue. Despite the fact that they know that this is wrong, they're still tired of it and they're not ready for that conversation. Don't confuse this with this kind of phrases, white fragility. Don't confuse it with white guilt, and also don't confuse it with white resistance. Okay, I'll go and explain, right? White fragility. White fragility is a defensive reaction to racial stress. White fatigue stems from being overwhelmingly by the complexities of systemic racism, even when intellectually committed to anti-racism, right? This is different from white. We call it white fatigue, right? Because white fatigue is, in as much as you know this is happening, but you don't want to talk about it because you are tired of talking about it, right? And this happens to white people. That is called the white fatigue, right? And so this is also different from white guilt. And so these are factors that are usually mostly being misused. But in this context, how people have rephrased this word and how people are trying to use this word. In simple terms, white fatigue for black people, it means that they are tired of white people. Now, that's according to this context right now, the way people have misinterpreted all this, right? Because you understand the misinterpretation came from first white people, when white people misinterpreted what is called the black fatigue. And now, the same way, black people are now misusing the word white fatigue. And so, brothers and sisters, black people are sharing their experiences. I'll put it white fatigue in quotes because that's not the real meaning of it, right? So white fatigue, they are tired from the experiences, daily experiences that they get from white people, how all these things happen. And I agree with them, because some of them that are sharing their issues, they are sharing from a point of confliction. They are sharing from a point that, damn, you people come and say you are tired of black people, yet you are always doing this. The systemic racism in the United States is so much overt. And that's why I want us to watch this video. Then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts. As you know, I'm your host and presenter H Stories. So let's watch the video. I'll be back.
White people are using black fatigue to be racist online. I put out 3 videos describing my white fatigue, and then I said I was going to be done. But You guys just can't leave me alone. And since you're so fatigued, be fatigued enough to get off my page and stay out of our business. But you can't even do that, can you? The best thing about the responses of this video is that everything you're saying is a projection. You want to talk about people who glorify criminals. Let's talk about how there's over 133 films, documentaries, and shows fawning over white serial killers, mass murderers, and men who commit SA. How many white criminals have fan clubs? Tired of the privilege you have to come online and say you're tired of us when majority of white people don't live within proximity of black people. Ergo, you're looking for us or you're not minding your business. Just leave us the fuck alone. Repackaging things minorities make and saying you discovered it like Columbus. Mexicans with agua fresca, calling it spa water. Cornrows as the Kardashian braids. Sticky bangs as edges. Black moisturizing, what my grandma told me to do, as slugging. Using and co-opting our lingo like fuck around and find out. Dead ass, mind you, all while trying to label it Gen Z TikTok lingo. Creating the condition for an entire generation of black kids without fathers by creating the war on drugs, by pumping drugs into the communities and then heavily policing black men, all whilst giving white men lesser charges for the same crimes. Me and my first cousins being the first people on my mom's side of the family to be born with full rights in this country because they're a woman, and my mom was born when segregation ended. But because she's a woman, she didn't have rights in this country. Recruiting women and children into cults and then making them harm themselves. The media holding one black or brown person responsible for the entire group, but a white boy being able to be a lone wolf or very smart or kept to himself after committing a mass shooting or essaying a woman. Your grandfathers received assistance after the war. They received government assistance after the war to buy homes, which created in mass the current day white middle class. At the same time, that same GI Bill wasn't available to black veterans because why? Racism. And what did that prevent? That prevent black veterans from buying homes, having access to healthcare, having access to education, having access to employment, which further put black people where? In the ghetto. Wearing native costumes and wearing blackface, and then when you get caught doing it, you say, oh, it was just a fun little costume. Painting all black people as criminals when white on white crime is the highest amount of crime committed in this country. Walking around in public like you own the sidewalk and that you are the police and able to police people's actions. Newsflash, you're not the managers of the world. Looking at us and saying, go back to where you came from when my ancestors have been here longer than your Swedish or German ancestors were even a thought. Karens with bobs, actively seeking out victimization from black and brown people when we mind our business. White people being the highest users of pressed pills, cocaine, powders, shrooms, heroin, crack, but then we are the ones that get associated with said behavior. Middle-aged men designing drugs and pumping drugs into systems, into middle-class neighborhoods, into lower-class neighborhoods, into high-class neighborhoods, causing and perpetuating the opioid crisis that we're currently going through. White men producing 75% of the content that floats around the world that includes underage children. Lastly, white people in this country being the biggest narcissists with the highest rates of cognitive dissonance to ignore your history and ignore the conditions that you created for us to be who we are, for Latinos to be who they are, for Asians to be who they are, for brown people to be who they are, for gay people to be who they are, for trans people to be who they are, and then blame us for it. So once again, if you're so tired of me and my people, stay the fuck out of my comments and stay away from me. Have the day you deserve. Stay blessed to everybody else who's not racist. And just a sidebar, for all the white people in these comment sections, you have been a blessing. And the fact that you know and you understand and you can identify that these videos are not about you says that we have come a long way as a people. And it's up to you guys to really drive this message home to your fellow kinfolk, because nothing I said is not factual, and people get their feelings hurt because they've been sold this lie for so long that, like I said, you guys are here and we're down here. And anything that's said to white people that they don't like, they call it racist. And I'm like, it's not racist. Nothing I said is racist. It's just facts. Ciao.
Here are 50 things that have given me white fatigue, and the list could go on, but here are just 50. Karens calling the police on black people for just existing, mass shooters being described as troubled young men, cultural appropriation without any appreciation, white people in locks talking about spirituality, all lives matter, I don't see color, white creators becoming famous for watered down versions of black culture, profiting off of black trauma on social media, weaponizing white tears, white savior complexes in real life and movies. I have a black friend as a get out of racism free card, white teachers punishing black students for being disruptive, gentrification marked as urban revitalization, being followed in grocery stores like you don't belong, police called because someone looks suspicious, white led DEI training with no actual change, white people going viral for dances black people people made. Why is it always about race with you? The obsession with controlling black hair, the criminalization of AAVE in schools and work, centering whiteness in conversations that aren't about them, singing the N-word because it's just a lyric, the legacy of colonization and pretending it's ancient history, slavery being taught as a necessary evil, internment camps being brushed over in history class, the Trail of Tears being summarized in a paragraph, mass incarceration of black and brown people, Confederate flags being called heritage. Get over it was a long time ago. White people crying in HR and getting people fired. White tears when equity feels like a loss of power. Denying white privilege when benefiting from it. Whitewash media stories. White-run nonprofits helping black communities while not listening. Demanding emotional labor while doing none themselves. Wearing blackface as a joke, screaming reverse racism like it's real, appropriating AAVE, using it wrong, watching black playing like it's a Netflix genre, MLK quotes using to shame black protests, demanding calm from oppressed people while being violent, policing tone instead of hearing truth, stolen land turned into suburbs and golf courses, white men running diversity campaigns, asking can I touch your hair like it's normal, white people calling things ghetto while profiting from the aesthetic, voting for oppression and acting shocked by the results when everyone fucking told you so, posting black squares thinking that that's activism, not all white people when no one gaffs, and thinking black fatigue is about you.
White people have co-opted black fatigue so they could spew hate and racist things towards us online. So I made a part 1 of this video and there was a few fragile white men in my comments. So I said, you know what, let me make a part 2 because the list is actually endless. Do you know how juvenile and lazy it is to say you have fatigue of an entire race of people and you're saying it with your whole chest online? The jokes also write themselves because in true fashion, you colonize a term that already exists and try to repackage it like it's your own because black fatigue is an actual thing. But let's dive in. Telling us that slavery was so long ago and we should forget about it when my parents literally were the first people in my family born with full rights. Not my mom because she's a woman. Tired of the media making the actions of one black or brown person represent the entirety of the groups when a white man can go shoot up a black church and be fed Burger King after. Being the highest perpetrators of shoplifting, but we're the ones that are followed in stores, we're the ones that are questioned, and we're the ones that are stopped when white middle-class women steal the most. I'm tired of cults, the KKK, the Proud Boys, the neo-Nazis, the militias, who work 10 times as hard and be the best in the room but missing out on opportunities, being 10 times better than you but being compared to mediocrity like Beyonce versus Taylor Swift. Criminalizing black women's natural hair and then doing things like wear braids that black women wear but say, but Vikings wore the braids, or try to make fun of women for wearing wigs when you criminalize their hair for the past 500 years so that things like the perm exist. Consistently telling us to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps when all of your grandfathers came back from the war and got handouts from the government. The majority of the white middle class exists because of handouts and welfare. Meanwhile, we weren't allowed to benefit from being war veterans because we're black. Then you tell us things like redlining isn't real, that gerrymandering isn't real, and that we're just all American. As if race doesn't matter. White fragility and white tears. Karens who called the police on black people for existing, like doing things like barbecuing in the park or sitting outside of our own homes. Destroying our cities when your team loses or conversely wins a game, meanwhile calling us thugs and looters for when we protest when black people are murdered on camera. White men who think the world revolves around them and that we owe them something. Being subjected to food made from fruit, jello, and cheese and everything comes out of a can. Cultural appropriation versus appreciating. Cosplaying black people, wearing our clothes, wearing our style, taking our music, taking our dances, repackaging it, and then trying to sell it to the general public like you came up with it. Consistently making yourselves the victim after we experience police brutality, recorded on phones, killing people consistently, and then saying, Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter, reinforcing the fact that black lives doesn't matter because what you guys are professional gaslighters. I'm exhausted that Law & Order SVU is real and based off real stories because white men can't be trusted to be alone with kids or women. Tired of Ponzi schemes existing and being the status quo and these guys never being charged or arrested, and things like Firefest can go have a round 2. Voting against basic human rights and then having the privilege to say, I regret my vote, I regret being MAGA. Policing of women's bodies while condoning violence against women. Your grandparents who participated in burning down of black establishments, black villages, and black towns when black people made money during segregation, leading to a decline in black wealth. Gentrification of black neighborhoods, black culture, black style, black music, and black dances, and then profiting from it. Villainizing black people when no other race has committed more harm and atrocities around the world to men, women, and children. So you guys can continue to deflect and hold yourselves unaccountable for all the things we're saying. You can continue to live in a world where you believe black people shouldn't exist and don't matter, and you can continue to live with the cognitive dissonance that you do not exude racism out of your body. Have the day you deserve, white folk.
White fatigue. I've been hearing this term a lot, so much so that I had to look it up, and I want to make sure I get this right. It's the weariness and disengagement that occur when white individuals are confronted with the realities of racism and their roles in perpetuating it. So basically, y'all just tired of hearing about the shit that happens at the hands of white folks, the things that have happened historically and the things that continue to happen at the hands of white people. Are tired of hearing about the shit that they continue to do to people from the people that they continue to do it to. That's what it is? Okay. And y'all wonder why a convicted felon is in charge of the country again with zero policies, and he's fucking y'all over no matter how white y'all are. So instead of trying to fix the problem, y'all just tired of hearing us complain about the problem that y'all continue to do. I'm laughing because any other reaction would get the video taken down. So instead of taking the stuff that is happening to people at the hands of some of the people that look like y'all and saying, you know what? We have historically messed these people over. Everything from slavery to subjugation, oppression, redlining, Jim Crow, all these things, systemically holding them down, banking, educationally, financially, all of the police brutality. And again, all of these things in some way, shape, or form still continue to happen. And instead of trying to fix it, because a lot of y'all tend to say, well, we're not our ancestors. So instead of trying to be better than y'all ancestors by writing the course that your ancestors started us on, y'all just tired of hearing us complaining about the course that y'all ancestors started us on. Instead of saying, let's build a better society by changing what happened in the past and building a better present and a better future, y'all just don't want us to talk about any of the past. Don't complain about any of the shit that's happening presently, and keep our mouths closed about what may happen in the future. So if this was an abusive relationship, you wouldn't be mad at the abuser. You'd be mad at the person being abused. Okay. Sometimes I just want to pretend like we ain't where we at. But we here.
That's the thing I think gets on my nerve when they would talk about black fatigue. And because it was never us. This whole pushing that, well, like we were pushing it more from the political thing out, and it was between black people, like, hey, we aware, saying we're aware of what's going on. We're not asleep anymore to systematic racism. That's what woke meant for us. White, bigoted, racist people co-opted that word, and they are the ones draining us from it. I said, remember the white liberal feminist movement and all that stuff like that. They go in, they grab hold of something like the BLM movement, the Me Too movement, all of these things, and they drain the significance from it. And then they look at us like, oh, now nobody's hearing the true message, because that's what the J.D. Vance and the Trumps them did. They took that word woke, they co-opted and destroyed what it meant. And so when we're saying we got fatigue, it's them. And I appreciate the white people who trying to, be allies and all that and come for the people, come for their own people. We need them. Yeah, go get them. I say, but between them and then you have the bigoted ones using it, that's what's the fatigue. It's not even us, it's them.
Hey, so I got to be honest about something. I saw a phrase the other day, white fatigue. Well, that's something that black people have been saying, like, we're just fatigued with white people, okay? But now white people and the algorithms have turned that around into they're tired of us. And I'm going to say something that's probably not, as they used to say, politically correct, but I'm tired of white people. I just am. And so that we are very clear here, I don't mean individual white people. I mean the system of whiteness that we are going through, especially since Trump came on board. And I'm sick of the anti-blackness. And I have to ask people, black people, do we need to stop trying to please be a part of or suck up to white people? Black Lives Matter comes along, a great moment. Everybody in the country sort of got behind it, and that scared so many of these white supremacy type people that there's a huge backlash. No DEI, you're woke, and all this kind of crap. So basically, all these corporations were like, yeah, we have a commitment. And as soon as they got permission to, they dragged the rug out from under us. So as Target has learned, black people have a lot of money. We have a lot of power that we're not using. And I gotta tell you something. Back in the day, through segregation, you had in a neighborhood the black doctor, the black nurse, the black teacher, the black plumber, the black numbers runner. You had everybody in the neighborhood, and you got to see different levels of black culture. Now, because of integration, all of the upwardly mobile good folk, I almost bought into it, upwardly mobile folks left the community because they wanted to see what the other side, the grass is always greener on the other side, etc., for many reasons. But then it left behind people who no longer had a role model to look for, except maybe a basketball player, a drug dealer, whatever. And I guess what I'm saying is, we have our own black colleges. We have our own black designers. We have our own black artists. We have all of that. But yet, we're still chasing the white dream. And I'm trying really hard to figure out what I'm trying to say, but at the end of the day, if we concentrated our wealth on us, so you go to where a lot of Chinese people are. It's called Chinatown. Businesses, grocery stores, the whole bit. You go to where there's a lot of, let's say, Armenians, Little Armenia. Grocery stores, banks, the whole bit. You do that with every community. And they have vibrant communities where they're self-contained. They're not trying to be white. They're being their authentic selves, their authentic culture. They are just as American as anybody else, but they're not striving for the white dream. And it just seems to me that black people are striving for the white dream, or that's where we've been forced to think is the correct way of doing things. And I guess my question, and please answer in the comments, were we better off during, would we be better off with segregation? And I don't mean like, before we were forced. But because of that, because of integration, we lost us, I feel, in many ways. There's not the vibrant black community. Where are the black grocery stores? Where's the black grocery chains? You've got Cardenas, you've got Supermercado, you've got all these places here that are Latino-focused grocery stores. There's not one national black grocery chain. We need to, a lot of people have problems with Tyler Perry, but at least Tyler Perry is employing black actors. Ever notice how the hottest guy in a movie is never the black guy? Like, now we're sort of seeing a change, with Michael B. Jordan, etc. But in general, black men are portrayed as not the hot guy, and oftentimes as the big queen. And I'm gay, so I can say this. Look at Food Network. All of the TV shows there are, you can have Italian cuisine, Asian cuisine, millions of hosts. There's occasionally one black soul food show. And even that, you can tell, just didn't get any attention. Whereas you have, if it's a white person, then it's Southern cuisine. And it's all over the place. And you look at what's going on over there at the Home and Garden, HGTV. They have gotten rid of all the black shows and all the gay shows as well, but all the black shows. We have our own wealth. If all of these basketball players, etc., would put money together, start a network, stop trying to why do we need to be on Netflix? Why do we need to be on HGTV? Tyler Perry has built a studio that hasn't been seen since the golden age of Hollywood back in the 30s and 40s. Why don't we do more of that? And I'm rambling because, honestly, and not all, and I used to always say this during Black Lives Matter, if you're not exhibiting the behavior, it's not about you. So I'm not saying all white people, but I gotta tell you, I'm tired of white people. The system. I have white fatigue. So would we be better off self-segregating ourselves like every other community does? Immigrants don't jump in, and they just don't. They go to their own, they keep with their own, they support their own. We're the only ones that seem to want to assimilate so badly. And honestly, it takes away from us. We are full Americans. That's why I hate the word African American, because we're not African American. We're Americans. We deserve to be Americans more than anybody else other than the natives, you know? Which is a whole other discussion. But I'm just tired of being othered by white people as if we're bad. You know, you go to Chinatown, you go to Little Tokyo, you go to Little Italy. What's the black person's neighborhood called? You know what it's called, and it's negative. So, but the only reason it's negative is because we care. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but would we be better off to just resegregate ourselves and not have to deal with the bullshit? Answer in the comments.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you watch me from. I'm your host again and presenter Jintok Stories. Thank God that we have these platforms so that we can talk about all these things that matters, all these issues that matters to us, you know, discussing all these intellectual issues that are happening. We need to discuss them, and we have concepts that describe these issues, right? Oftentimes we've discussed about the white fragility, we've discussed about the, there are a couple of times that I was trying to share with you white guilt, you know, white resistance, and all these other terms which were coined by professors that try to educate people on these issues. First of all, I like to say that white fatigue is real. Why am I saying so? White fatigue is real because most oftentimes when white people come and complain about the things that black people do, then this leaves black people with the room for question. And the questions are, when you're saying that you are tired with a black person, do you recognize that the United States is why it is today? Because of your behaviors, because of your racist behaviors, because of what you believe in, because what you subscribe to, because of what you are indoctrinated to, right? And so when you understand what all these concepts mean, you need to understand that white fatigue is real. White fatigue is real, and black people are always experiencing it, especially black people that come from places that it is white dominated. Probably you are going to do work in these places. Probably you know, these things happen, right? The overt racism that happens in these places is real. And I think this is something that needs to be discussed like in depth. This is something that needs to be talked about. When you look at the history of black people, like let's talk about the history and slavery in history and how all these things happen, you understand that the role of all these slave masters, they made sure that they took everything from black people. They harvested black people's labor, they harvested black people's energy, they harvested everything that was so much important from black people. They left them with nothing. And you know what that happened after abolition of slavery? After when, you know, the agrarian revolution was coming through, you understand that there was abolition of slavery. Now, when the abolition of slavery happened, this is what happened. There was advocacy for free labor. Let people work if they want, and if they're working, let them being paid, right? Now, after this revolution came, black people started building their own cities. I'm talking about Philadelphia, I'm talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm talking about all these places that black people try to develop. And then you talking about black fatigue, you know what the US government did? What the US government did is they literally bombed these places because they saw the growth of black people. They saw the developmental issues and they couldn't fathom the growth that black people could have. And so as a result, what do? They decided to destroy these places. And when they destroyed these places, they returned black people to ground zero. I'm not done yet. Another instance of white fatigue, which happened historically, is also when we add white farmers that were doing great also after slavery, right? Black farmers were doing so much great. And you know what happened? They first banned the crops, they banned all these stores that contain black foods and black security that belong to black people. They all dealt with that. It's called the scorched earth policy, right? The scorched earth policy is destroying most important things, valuable things to people for their survival. And when they banned the stores that contained the groceries, the foods that belong to black people, it means that black people will be dependent on them, and that's what they wanted. You talking about white fatigue. You know, when these people went ahead and they went into blacks' houses when people were asleep, and they burnt all these places with black people inside them. I don't know if you watched the movie called Apocalypto. I'm not trying to say that that's what exactly happened, but it is something similar to that. These people usually attacked black people in the neighborhoods, in their places. They burnt down these places, they raped, they pillaged, they took all these things from black people, even after slavery ended. And you know what that meant? You know what that meant for the economy of black people. And so when black people come out on these platforms and talk about how they are tired of these things, I'm not even saying about the current issues about the sundown town. You know, there's all different story about the sundown town that I don't want to talk about. But these are the things that really happened. And those things affected black people until today. And so when black people come out in these platforms and talk about how they are tired of the racist behaviors of some white people, then you understand that all that is happening has reached their brain. And so, brothers and sisters, I'm your host and presenter, G Stories. If you're watching me for the first time, I'm just asking you to please consider subscribing to the channel. Please join my membership and really see what I can offer you. For those who are always supporting me through my Cash App, those who are always sending me super thanks, man, I'm really grateful for the support that you are giving. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.